I've been drawing since I was a kid, like most of us. I'd fill sketchbooks, practice every day, and brush up my skills. Pun intended. So when I finally decided to try digital art, I thought, this will be great. Easy. No problemo. Oh, how wrong I was. Turns out, being good at drawing doesn't automatically make you good at digital art. It is a whole different skill set, with its own tools, rules, and weird quirks that no one really talks about. But if you stick around, I'm going to walk through the exact mistakes I made and how you can avoid them. These are mistakes that you probably don't even know are mistakes. So if you want to skip that infuriating stage where everything just feels kind of off and get straight into the chef's kiss of digital art, then let's go. Okay, this one's a biggie, and I say that because I used to do it constantly. I'd get so fixated on drawing the head, making sure that the face looked good, the expression was cute, and the hair had volume, and I completely forgot about the rest of the body. And the result always looked kind of disconnected, like the head was floating on a figure someone added as an afterthought. Now, here's why it's a problem. When you lock in the head first without thinking about the rest of the piece, you're not making any decisions about composition, pose, or flow. You're basically winging it from the neck down. And that makes the final piece feel disjointed, even if the head looks great. So here's what I do now instead. Before I dive into any detail, I sketch out the full composition. Whether it's a character or a full scene, I block in the basic flow first. Think of it like setting the stage before choosing your spotlight. This way, the pose feels intentional, the silhouette reads clearly, and the whole piece feels cohesive from the start. Don't fall into the start with the fun part trap. Yes, drawing heads are fun, but if the body doesn't support it, the whole piece suffers. Once you've got that full sketch down, then let's go in and have fun with the details. And it actually makes drawing the head easier because you already know how it connects to everything else. So you've got the basic sketch down, but if your artwork still looks a bit stiff or lifeless, this next habit might be why. It's something small, but it adds a ton of interest once you start noticing it. Now, this one's really subtle, but once you notice it, you'll start seeing it everywhere. Not paying attention to negative space when you sketch. I used to draw everything kind of glued together. Arms right up against the body, hair flush to the face, clothes sticking exactly to the outline of the character. It technically worked, but the whole piece felt kind of stiff and lifeless. In real life, people don't move like cardboard cutouts. There's always space between the hand and the torso, between clothing and skin, even between strands of hair and the face. Those little pockets of negative space might seem small, but they add so much interest. They suggest movement, depth, and realism, even in a stylized drawing. It's those tiny attention to detail moments that take your art from amateur to pro level. So when you're sketching, start looking for opportunities to break that everything touching everything habit. Pull limbs slightly away from the body. Let the clothing drape or float instead of cling, and add a gap where two elements overlap. Even if it's just a few millimeters of negative space, it can completely change how natural your drawing feels. So don't squash everything together just because it's quicker. Take those extra seconds to think about space. It's those small choices that make your art feel confident and professional. Okay, so we've talked about layout and movement, but now let's zoom in a little bit, because the next thing can instantly level up your drawings, and it's all in the line work. Okay, this one is a little bit more opinion-based because it definitely depends on your style. But for me personally, not using line depth was one of those things that made my art feel kind of flat, even when the drawing itself was solid. What I mean by line depth is basically line weight, how your line changes thickness depending on light, form, and focus. For ages, I drew the same line thickness all the way around the shape. It was clean, but also kind of boring. When every line is the same, your piece can feel flat, mechanical, and a bit lifeless, especially if you're going for a stylized or expressive look. But when you vary your line weight even just a little bit, it instantly makes your work look more dynamic and interesting to look at. Thinner lines suggest light hitting an edge, thicker lines can sit in the shadow. It's not just about style, it's about giving the viewer information about how something feels. A piece of fabric with even, flat lines can look lacking in dimension, but that same fabric with varied line weight now looks flowy, thick, or delicate, whatever you want it to feel like. That is the power of line depth. Next time you're inking, try to use thinner lines on areas where the light would hit. You can thicker the lines around shadowed edges or places where objects overlap, and you can vary line weight depending on how close an area of the subject is to the viewer. For example, if their hand is closer to the viewer, it would be more in focus and have heavier line weight. It doesn't have to be extreme, but subtle changes can add so much to a finished piece. So, while consistent line width might seem clean, it can also rob your art of its energy. Try playing with line depth to add more life, mood, and texture to your pieces. Once your sketch and line art are starting to feel solid, it's time to think about colour. But before you dive into painting, this next step will save you a ton of frustration later. What I'm about to show you next has been my most asked question on pretty much any drawing video I've done here on YouTube. So let me explain what I do. Now, this one is a tiny habit, but it makes a huge difference to your colouring workflow, not using a colour sample layer. Now, I used to jump straight into colouring. I'd pick a palette, start painting, and then halfway through realise that that colour looks awful next to that one. So now I'm either stuck redoing huge sections or manually tweaking every colour on the canvas. The problem here isn't just that you picked the wrong colour, it's that you committed to it too early. Without testing how your colours look together, it's super easy to get halfway through a piece and realise that something feels off. And once the artwork is detailed, changing the colours is slow, messy, and often ruins your blending. So what I do now every single time is set up a little colour sample layer at the start. I just quickly jot down my colours under my line art to see what works with the piece. Then I can minimise the colour sample, move it to the side, and pick from them as I go in with the colouring stage. You can also use it to test your shadows and highlights so you know they blend well before you commit. So if you're constantly second guessing your colouring mid-painting, try a sample layer first. Of course, it's digital art, so you can go back and change this, but I promise this technique will save you a ton of time and give you more confidence that your palette works before you dive straight into the final colours. Okay, now that you've got your palette sorted, don't make this next mistake when you're setting up your canvas. It's one of the easiest fixes, but most people completely miss it. Okay, this is a sneaky little habit that quietly ruins your colours. And that is colouring straight onto a white background. I used to do this every time. New canvas, white background, start sketching, start colouring, and then wonder why everything felt washed out and kind of lifeless. Here is why this messes with your artwork. White is the brightest value your screen can show. So when you're colouring on top of it, especially with lighter or more textured, transparent brushes, it actually sucks the saturation out of your colours. You end up seeing bits of white peeking through, your shadows don't read well, and the whole piece ends up looking pale or chalky, even if your colours looked fine in the palette. It's like trying to paint with watercolour on a light box. Just not a good look. So never colour directly on a white canvas. Instead, you should always drop a soft, neutral colour underneath your artwork, usually something warm. Sometimes it can just be a solid base colour, or you could drop in a subtle gradient, especially if you want a bit of light or atmosphere baked in. The key is to choose a background that's lighter than the colours you plan to use, but not pure white. So if your colours look washed out, it might not be the palette you're using, it might be the background. Ditch the white canvas. Start with a soft tone or gradient and give your colours something nice to sit on. Alright, your background's in place and you've already started adding your colour, but here is a brush habit that can make your artwork look totally amateur without even realising it. Alright, let's talk about one of the most common beginner habits in digital art, painting everything with the soft brush. Now look, I get it. It's safe, it blends everything, it feels smooth and forgiving. But if every shadow and highlight in your piece is airbrushed, it starts to lack real depth. When everything in your piece has the same soft, blurry edge, nothing stands out. Your shadows don't feel grounded, your highlights don't really pop, and your form loses that sense of structure and depth. And without any texture or edge variation, your characters start to feel a bit flat, even if your colours are good and even if your drawing underneath is strong. It's not that the soft brush is bad, it's that when it's the only tool you're using, it actually hides the strength of your work. You lose that tactile, expressive feel that makes digital art feel rich and dimensional. Now, of course, I should point out there is no right or wrong way to make art. And yes, some people do amazing things with soft shading. But if you're sitting there wondering why your artwork still looks kind of amateur, even if you spend hours on it, this might be why. Here's what changed things for me. I started mixing in textured brushes and hard edges. Instead of just fading everything out, I began defining shapes, adding brush strokes that had grain, direction, and a bit of mess to them. Now look, a new brush pack isn't going to magically make you draw like a pro overnight. It's not a shortcut to skill. But what it can do is give you the right tools to actually practice in the right way. When your brushes have the texture and edge control you need, it's way easier to experiment, to build confidence, and to start seeing progress faster. That is exactly why I made the colouring pencil case, a brush pack designed to bring authentic texture to your digital art. It includes 20 unique brushes from soft blends to bold strokes and grainy textures, each one crafted to feel like real pencil on paper. They're perfect for sketching, shading, and layering colour in a way that feels natural and expressive. If you want to bring more texture into your digital work, this is the set I'd recommend starting with. You can check it out in the description below. And if you're not quite ready to grab the full set yet, I've got a free Procreate starter kit that includes one of my favourite inking brushes. It's a great way to test things out and start experimenting with more confident, expressive line work. That's also linked below, so grab your freebie and have a play. So, don't let the airbrush do all of the work. If everything is soft, nothing stands out. So we've cleaned up the way you apply colour, now let's talk about shadows. And if you're still just picking darker versions for every single colour, I want to show you an alternative. I used to do this every single time I added shadows. I'd take the base layer I was shading, make it a bit darker, and just paint the shadow that way. Seems logical, right? But doing this with every colour in your artwork not only slows you way down, it also makes your artwork look muddy. Suddenly you've got 15 different shadow colours and none of them look like they belong together. The issue here is consistency. When you manually darken each colour, you're not building a lighting system. You're just winging it colour by colour. And that leads to shadows that don't harmonise, tones that clash, and a painting that feels kind of patchy. Plus, it's a time suck. You end up doing way more colour picking than actual painting. So here's what I do now, and it's a total game changer. I use a multiply layer. You pick one colour for your shadows, something warm or cool depending on the mood, and it automatically blends with all your base colours underneath. It's faster, more consistent, and gives your whole piece a unified lighting feel. So how do you know what colours to use for your artwork? For warm, glowy shadows, try a soft burnt orange or dusty red. For moody, nighttime scenes, go with a muted navy or purple. Lower the opacity of the blending mode to get the desired effect, and boom, shading all in one colour on one layer. And if you want a quick cheat sheet on what colours to use with what blending modes, my Procreate starter kit, the one with the free inking brush I mentioned earlier, also includes a full blend mode guide. It shows you exactly which colours to use with multiply, overlay, add, and more, so that your shadows, highlights, and effects work with your palette, not against it. It's totally free and it's linked below if you want to grab it. So stop manually picking darker versions of every colour. Switch to multiply, use one unified shadow tone, and make your shadows work with your palette, not against it. And finally, this last tip brings everything together. Because even with the right palette and brushwork, your art can still feel flat if you're not doing this. The next mistake is something I didn't even realise was a thing when I started digital art: not checking your values. Like, I was so focused on choosing the right colours, I completely ignored whether those colours actually work together in terms of contrast. Here is why it's a big deal. Even if your colour palette looks pretty, if all of your colours sit in the same value, aka the same level of lightness or darkness, your piece will feel flat, washed out, or just hard to read. In grayscale, if everything looks like the same soft grey, there's no visual hierarchy, no depth, no punch. So now, whenever I'm working on colours, I quickly toggle my canvas into grayscale to check the values. If everything looks the same, I know I need to adjust. I'll make sure there's contrast between focal points and background. You want to make sure that your focal points have the strongest contrast. So yeah, don't just focus on picking pretty colours, make sure your values are doing the heavy lifting behind the scenes. Grayscale is your secret weapon. Use it and your art will instantly feel clearer, punchier, and more intentional. If you found these tips helpful, you'll love this video where I break down exactly how to improve your line art. It's packed with my best hints, techniques, and simple tricks to make your line work cleaner, more expressive, and way more pro. Check it out.